Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. I don't see anybody for invocation today, so if you want to join me, we'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have quite a bit going on today. We have our regular meeting at 10 o'clock. We have two workshops, one with Department of Ecology and one with HHS, Health and Human Services, on the 5-year homeless housing plan. We'll start today. We're blessed to have Representative Abarno with us. And I don't know if you had a few words or, yeah, right up and just make sure the bright green light is on. And thank you for joining us.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I guess I'm used to testifying in the legislature, so I'll say for the record, State Representative Peter Abarno, representing the 20th District, really blessed to represent the 20th, which is South Thurston County, most all of Lewis County, east of I-5, including Centralia, Chehalis, and Napavine, all of Cowlitz County, east of I-5, and Clark County, which through redistricting and court cases now includes everything almost down to the city of Vancouver. It's pretty large. But really here today without any sort of agenda, but I know you all, and thank you for having me, you all have done an amazing job communicating with your delegation in the 19th and 20th District. And I just felt it was one of those opportunities to come here and actually, again, reintroduce myself and offer my assistance as a partner. You've been great partners in, trying to achieve your goals here in the county. And just wanted to come down, reintroduce myself, offer any help I can provide and our delegation can provide to making Cowlitz County successful. And, like I said, you and your staff have been great coming up to Olympia. It's about time we come down to you and talk to you. So if you have any questions, most certainly, I know you have a busy agenda, but it really was no specific agenda item.
We appreciate that offer. I live in the 19th, so like I have Representative Walsh and McIntyre in today, and we sit down and talk. But I would love to, even though I'm not in the 20th, I'd love to do that with yourself also, just to kind of keep those lines open. And
yeah,
and what I'll ask is Kelly would kind of coordinate that, and maybe we could do that every so often.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the 20th District, we're lucky to have myself as a budget writer on capital budget, which I see a lot of capital budget items on here. Senator Braun being on Ways and Means in the Senate, and then Representative Orr could also be on transportation, where we represent all the major budgets and also a lot of different policy committees as well. But I think there's a really good opportunity to continue our collaboration and partnership and try to make sure that Cowlitz County is well represented up in Olympia. So.
Perfect. We appreciate that. I can leave you with 2 words because we've seen insurance just go through the roof, tort reform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insurance is at all levels, whether it's business insurance, whether it's housing, whether it's automobile. It's one of the big things, and whether it's healthcare, all of them together have increased the cost of living and been really a problem for a lot of our citizens.
We just signed a new contract over to jail, and you're talking $500,000 increase.
Yeah, and have been, with Medicaid and Medicare and other things,
Yeah.
and the reimbursement rates in Washington being among the worst in the nation, a lot of our folks are suffering with that, and our providers are then pushed out of rural communities. So these are all those types of issues that I'm more than happy to sit down and let's put together some solutions. I mean, Cowlitz County, doesn't have, something that's maybe unique in their issues, but it's unique to the area and the citizens. And if we can solve it regionally, especially as Southwest Washington delegation, I'm all ears and willing to work and try to solve those problems with you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Representative, thanks for coming by.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me ask for approval of the minutes of October 6th to 8th and October 13th and 15th. We got two.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the past 2 weeks. Any questions, comments? Let me just check for hands, seeing none. Okay, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye, thank you. We do have before I get into consent agenda, we do have a proclamation today for it's in the matter of declaring October 23rd to the 31st, 2025 as Red Ribbon Week in Cowlitz County. And I'll just read this, and then the commissioners will sign it and we'll get it over to the folks. Whereas alcohol and other drugs abuse in this nation has reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Family Partnership is sponsoring the National Red Ribbon Campaign, offering citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, no use of illegal drugs, no illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during the Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to the 31st. And whereas business, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical, religious institution, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the Cowlitz County further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign, now therefore be it resolved the Cowlitz County does hereby proclaim October 23rd to 31st, 2025 as Red Ribbon Week, and encourages its citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free state. And that'll be signed by the 3 Board of Commissioners. They had a representative. Were you able to, do you want to come up and say a couple words on it? Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Sarah Hancock. I'm from Epic Coalition. And Cowlitz County is lucky to have 3 coalitions dedicated to drug abuse prevention with youth. There's Highlander Hope in Kelso, Castle Rock Care Coalition in Castle Rock, Epic Coalition in Longview. We're all, of course, promoting Red Ribbon Week. And today, in fact, later for first and second lunch, I'll be over at RA Long. They'll be doing Red Ribbon pledges. And then Monticello's doing Wear Red Day Thursday. They'll all be wearing red. Last year, someone painted their whole body red, so there's some different rules this year.
Yeah.
But pledging to have drug-free lifestyle, having positive, we have Proud to Be Vape-Free, that positive promotion, peer-to-peer, instead of everyone's doing it, that negative, like it just, that drag of like, might as well kind of thing, instead really focusing on not everyone's doing it, and I'm proud to not be doing that. So one thing that I wanted to bring up about Red Ribbon Week and that I shared and you can look at later is, like with most grassroots awareness campaigns, it started out from tragedy. So in 1985, an undercover drug enforcement officer, Kiki Camareno, was kidnapped by drug traffickers and tortured and murdered. And his murder and death brought anger, of course, to the community and his family. That's where this Red Ribbon Campaign was birthed. Together to honor him, his parents, youth, and the community where he was from, started wearing red ribbons to honor Kiki, and as a symbol to their commitment to raise awareness about the destruction caused by drugs in America. And to date, the Red Ribbon Campaign is the oldest and largest drug prevention program in our nation, reaching millions of young people during the week of the October 23rd through 31st. So it means a lot that the leaders in our county did this proclamation to say we are part of that, and drugs affect our community, and so whatever we can do to prevent that and raise awareness to the importance of the positive messaging of it doesn't have to be this way, and we can go upstream and work on prevention. And then I also shared this weekend some information about our drug take back event, where anyone in the community can bring by unused or expired drugs of any kind, prescriptions, et cetera. All three of the coalitions I mentioned, we have 2 sites. We'll be out there on Saturday, 10 to 2 at Walgreens. There's a drive-through where you can drop off. We're collaborating with law enforcement and Walmart. And so Walmart and Walgreens 10 to 2, like I said, I dropped off flyers. And that's a great way to keep your home safe, and as well as our community, because when medications get in our water, people flush them if they don't know that that's not good for our environment, then that's not good for our community, as well as if kids get curious and find them in homes, that's obviously very dangerous. And so both Walgreens and Walmart, our coalitions will also have free medication lock boxes, another way to keep families and homes safe. So I dropped off information about that as well.
Is that all the Walmarts participating?
Good question. Ocean Beach, Walmart.
So Ocean Beach and 38?
And and then
And
Walmart or Walgreens
Walgreens
on
be 30th
Ocean Beach. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll run down through consent agenda. I'm on the back end of a cold.
You need a motion for that resolution?
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the resolution proclaiming October 23rd through the 31st, 2025 as Red Ribbon Week in Cowles County.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments on the resolution? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. I need to give you a stick. You just, yeah.
Don't worry. Good thing you're on my left side. I can reach it.
I know it. If I was on Chicken Wings' right side, he wouldn't ever touch me. Okay, we'll run down through consent agenda. I'm on the back end of a cold, so we'll try and get through this. We have 2 call for bids. One for large on-site septic system installation. This was a emergency, no, this is Camelot.
You're right.
Camelot large on-site septic system. It's a system that's been in place roughly 50 years and needs replaced. It was a system we funded through ARPA, and the bids are going out for that. We expect it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 650,000. Call for bids, items 2 and 3 both deal with our 2 separate landfills, one the open landfill, one the closed one. And this is a call for bids for as-needed electrical services up at the headquarters landfill. That's scheduled for November 17th, 2025 at 1:30. It's a 2-year contract. The last contract we had, we spent over the 2 years roughly 150,000 for that. And then the other call for bids is for the Tenant Way, which is a little bit different. It's a close down for electrical and mechanical services. And that also is on November 17th at 1:30. The last 2-year contract on that was right around 75,000. Agreements, contracts, bid awards. Contract completion letter, Lakeside Industries for the 2025 countywide pavement overlay project that's been completed. The total project was a little over 2.9 million. Bid award to L Rock Industries for the purchase of snow sand. The total amount is $62,290.24. We will put 750 tons at each of our shops. Snow sand, as it was explained yesterday, is filtered sand, so you don't have any of the big rocks in it. They filter it out and they call it snow sand. Supplemental agreement with OTAC for the Pleasant Hill Road Temporary Bridge Replacement Project. Extending the expiration date to December 31st, 2027. It's a project FEMA is involved in, and FEMA is in the environmental review. When FEMA is involved, they do the environmental review. It's taking longer than we anticipated, so we've extended the expiration of that project to December 31st, 2027. Contract and a bond in lieu of retainage with Advanced Excavating Specialist for an emergency to repair a collapsed storm drain on Sweet Birch Drive. Amendment number 1 to the personal service agreement with Appraisal and Consulting Group for appraisal services for various public works projects. We're extending that contract through December 31st, 2026. Amendment number 1 to material sales agreement with JL Stordahl and Sons for the removal of dredge materials to update the name change to JLS Newco. That's the new company at bottom. And extending that contract to December 31st, 2026 to increase the minimum quantity to be removed to 175,000 cubic yards. They take some of the dredge spoils. We get a fee for that, and they use those dredge spoils. They have to mix it with something because dredge spoils don't hold real well, but they use it for fill in other places. I think a lot of it is going to the port project right at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, new rail.
Yeah. Amendment 1 to interlocal agreement with City of Longview for the Mint Valley Pro Golf shop roof and siding replacement. We're extending the end date of that to June 30th, 2026. A couple resolutions. Well, all of them involve resolution certifying the 2026 for Silver Lake Flood District, resolution certifying the 2026 budget for Lexington Flood District, and resolution certifying the 2026 budget for Consolidated Diking Improvement District. All these districts, they do their budget, but the county has to certify them, and so that's what that is. Board correspondence. Wow, we have a bit. Letter dated 10/12/25 to Colonel Catherine Sanborn, Saddle District Army Corps Engineers regarding the accelerating sediment issues in Toutle, Cowlitz, and Columbia Rivers. Is that the letter that Senator Wilson office put together? Okay.
Yep.
A letter dated 10/21/2025 to Raymond Van Tongeren, reappointing him to the Great Rivers Behavioral Health Advisory Board. 3-year term, it'll expire the end of September 2028. Letter dated 10/21/25 to Marin Fox, reappointing her to the Great Rivers Behavioral Health Advisory Board. 3-year term expires the end of September 2028. Letter dated 10/21/25 to Gina James, reappointing her to the Great Rivers Behavioral Health Advisory Board. 3-year term expires September 3rd, into September 2028. And a letter dated 10/21/25 to Beth Follows, reappointing her to the Great Rivers Behavioral Health Advisory Board. Once again, a 3-year term expires into September 2028. Letter dated 10/21/25 to Carol Searing, reappointing her to the Fair Board. This is a 4-year term, expires the end of October 2029. Letter dated 10/21/25 to Mary, oh boy, I'm gonna screw this up, Grachow, reporting her to the Fair Board. 4-year term expires the end of October 2029. Letter dated 10/9/25 for Patrick Harbinson, Diking Engineer, Silver Lake Flood Control District of Cowlitz County regarding Silver Lake Regulating Structure Inspection Report. And a letter from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission dated 9/26/25 regarding the 2025 site-specific seismic hazard analysis update on Yale project. Executed contracts, agreements, recorded possession and user agreement and right of entry between 141 Sweet Birch Drive to relocate the storm drain pipe. This was the failed drain pipe and we've relocated it. And then the next 3, B, C, and D are all, when we relocate it, it changes, we get an easement from the property owner. So that's what you're seeing here. Perpetual road and utility easement from R.H. Emerson for the Well, this is out in Riderwood. Supplemental water source address, sorry. Riderwood, we're trying to upgrade their water system, and this is all these B, C, and D refers to Riderwood. Warranty deed also from R.H. Emerson for the Riderwood supplemental water source to address drought resiliency for the residents of Riderwood, and recorded perpetual road and utility easement from Dennis and Sally Hall for the Riderwood supplemental water source. Vouchers and warrants, let's see. Looks like we had an active month. Vouchers and warrants in the amount of $8,580,470.23. That's consent. Any questions on consent? A lot there.
Oh, sweet, go ahead. Oh, well, you're in a hurry, get it on. Good morning, Commissioners. My question has to do with your item number 8, the 175,000 yards of, I'm sorry, the one with the 175,000 acres or yards, that's item 9. That Stordal's placing of dredge spoils, and that also ties in with the significant amount of sediment coming down on the rivers. Have we done anything yet to provide sediment access for the community, for public access? We've talked about this before, and that sediment is there and public can't get to it that I know of.
I don't know that I have the answer to that. I know we signed a contract with Stordal. They take it off down out of the Castle Rock area. The public can get in there if they wanted to take some, I suppose they.
Castle Rock sells it by the yard, cubic yard, for about $1.50 a cubic yard. So I don't know exactly how that works. I just know that they do that.
The city.
Yeah, the city of Castle Rock. I don't know if you can answer it.
Yeah, I'll try the best I can here. So the material sale agreement with Stordal is removal of the dredge spoils from Cook Ferry Cell 4, the most southern part of it. The northern area of Cook Ferry is still open to the public. And public access is still available through the entire site into the river area. If you took a bucket, I don't know what we'd notice.
So is the question whether or not the public can freely take spoils? Is there an issue with that?
I don't know if there's an issue with that.
Um,
We can follow up with you though.
Yeah, I don't
Probably need to talk
imagine
to,
we're gonna complain if they wanna help us take some of that out of there.
I would simply request that we have millions of yards of dredge spoils. We've been talking about that. And I know community people, you may want a little bit for a garden, you may want something, a pickup load, a 5-gallon bucket load, et cetera. Would you please make it visible to our entire community where we can get it is without taking a chance of no trespassing and all the other issues? That would be greatly appreciated.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Ron.
So I'm going to talk about number 10 here. The amendment, the interlocal grant agreement with the city of Longview over the Mint Valley Golf Course, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that it doesn't need that stuff, but I find that to be a little bit government unfairness to the commercial operations, you know, like Three Rivers and I guess the Country Club, you know, they got one too. We're supporting a competing business with those guys with taxpayer money. And I know I'm not knocking the golf course. I like to play golf. So, but that seems a little unfair to the other entities there. Just a point.
Okay. Anything else on consent? See any online? I entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. One last opportunity. Okay. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Looks like one motion item today, Gina.
Hey, good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have one item on the agenda this morning. This is a contract with Goodwill. This is our last pass-through contract related to our state contract for developmental disabilities, employment and day services. So we've seen a few others the last several weeks, and this is the last one in that group. So this one is up to $87,000 for the year for their employment and day services.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the contract with Goodwill of the Olympics and Rainier Region.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Just looking real quick. See nobody approach, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Gina.
Okay, thank
And
you.
you're gonna be with us a little later.
Yep,
Well, we have Department of Ecology and then you with the homeless housing plan.
yes,
Okay.
yep.
We have a public hearing coming up at 9:30. I have just a couple minutes. If the public has any quick comments, we'll open it up again. Obviously, we'll open up public comment again after public hearing. But since the public hearing is on the agenda and a set time, we have to hold it at 9:30. Yeah, if you have something quick, Tim. I just have to, at 9:30, have to go to the public hearing, yeah.
People here, I thought, gosh darn, I'll have to wait. So I got a good news kind of thing.
Yeah,
I saw over by the river by me, they were cleaning out all the homeless stuff there. And, I was kind of surprised to see it was the vans and the, like, not prisoners, but, you know, it was our county vehicles over there doing that.
oh,
And, well, apparently he didn't know about it. I didn't either. Well, of course, I had to run over and talk to him, you know, who's the man in charge. He told me that this is what went on, is, the railroad told the county, and this is what the county work crew leader told me, right? So anyway, the railroad told the county they're cleaning it out. Like there's more to come. They're gonna log it in there and they're gonna cut down all the brush so nobody can camp in there apparently.
the railroad is
Yeah,
what you're being
you know,
told?
BNSF over there, where a couple of minutes ago I mentioned it being a kind of a hot spot for stuff. Maybe we ought to do something about that. Well, the railroad said they were gonna do it. And apparently, you know, he didn't name names or anything. I don't know his name, but he told me that they had told the county they were gonna do that but that it wasn't gonna be good for the people in there, right? The railroad was gonna do it in railroad fashion, in other words, with a stick. And, so county, at some point, somebody made a decision to use our people to go and do the initial run them off and pick up their stuff kind of thing. And I was just curious about, and I see you guys didn't hear about it and I didn't, you know, somewhere a decision was made for us to spend our time and resources on it, whereas the railroad was just gonna do it. So I would, this is maybe something we can, if we're running out of time, we don't need to chew up a lot of time here because, you know, I was as surprised as you are guys to see that. I'm just wondering what decision who made that decision? Who got the call from the railroad and said, well, just a minute, you know, don't be mean to them. We'll go help them out. And, you know, irregardless, I'm happy because they're gone and it looks like they're not going to be allowed to come back. So, there's 20 years of, I don't have to worry about so many things being stolen around my house. So,
I do remember us having a conversation about that, and I thought I remember Mike saying he was gonna call the railroad and talk to them,
yeah.
but I don't remember hearing back from him on that.
Well, the good news is, at least from what he told me, is the railroad's gonna log down there and I guess run bulldozers through there, whatever they're gonna do to clear out all the brush and keep it down. So anyway, that's, you know, at the end of the day, it's good news. I'm not really complaining, but I was just surprised that, if the railroad was gonna do it, why did we get involved, you know?
Well, I made a note. Okay. Okay, we'll head into the public meeting. Jason, I think, public hearing, sorry.
Jason Lorraine here with Calhoun County Prosecutors. We have a proposed ordinance amendment amending a number of the county ordinances in response to the state's amendment of their own RCW 3632-120 subsection 10, which now is renumbered as RCW 3632-120 subsection 11. A number of our land use ordinances refer to subsection 10, and in order to ensure that our ordinances are to date, we need to renumber that as 11.
Pretty simple, just a housekeeping thing.
Indeed.
Okay.
Is it objectionable?
Any questions up here? Okay,
No.
officially open public hearing for any public comment if you have any on this. Seems pretty straightforward. Okay, we'll close public hearing part. And I would entertain a motion to approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the changes to ordinance to reflect codification of amendment by the State Office of Code Reviser as listed.
Okay. Have a motion to approve. We already offered public comment, so we'll just go straight to the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, we'll open back up for public comment. We'll have till 10 o'clock if you want that much time. Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm Brad. I was here 2 weeks ago. I just wanted to kind of ask for some more help. I sent a bunch of pictures. If you could put some up on Walker Road, we have still a very big mess. It's about 800 feet of wooden garbage right on the roadway. Can you put any of that up? And we continue to try to get the county to help us. August 27th, once again, the judge told this man that he has to clean it up in 30 days. And I've gone to sanitation, trying to get more help. I've called the sheriff multiple times, trying to get more help. I'm letting all my neighbors, everybody's now familiar, the whole neighborhood knows that this man was told to clean this up August 27th. He had 30 days. And I'm driving by it still daily, and there's, you see a truck there that he had broken, and that truck brought up most of this stuff over 2.5, 3 years. And then at the hearing in August, he told the judge the truck is broken. And if you'll see another photo, he failed to tell the judge that he has this car that he piles pallets on top of the car there and brings pallets up at night and adds to the mess. It's still 8 to 10 feet, at least 700 to 800 feet long. Probably more has moved around the corner. So I just wanted to really humbly ask all three commissioners, am I in the wrong place? I mean, what can I do, or how can you please help us? Ask the sheriff or the deputy or somebody to please enforce the decision of this judge, August 27th, that said, sir, clean this up. Because one of our residents, Mr. Slanger, paid a lawyer. And I got an email from Deputy Gladson that said, now the plaintiff is supposed to go back to the court to try to get the county to enforce what the judge apparently did. So my question to either of you guys, have you heard any developments of this? I've been writing emails to deputies, of course, the sheriff, of course, sanitation, housing, building housing. Can anybody give me any updates? I asked for Mary to be here today. I also asked for Deputy Grayson to give us Gladson to give us an update, and I've got no updates. If maybe, Rick, have you heard anything or?
You know, we're trying to keep updated with what the court wants to do with this, but it's really kind of in their arena. We'll do what they end up telling us to do.
So the court's not, even though the court said August 20th, clean this up. And isn't there a way that we can enforce what, I mean, don't you think we're going to have a really, we don't have really respect for the law or the court? If a judgment like this goes down and it's not followed, I think we have a real chance of a lack of respect for the law. So this is something that's been there 3 years, and finally the court made the decision, and now we don't have any enforcement?
It's hard for me. I don't really want to speak as an attorney. I don't know how their business.
I mean, am I in the wrong place? Can either of
No,
you, any of the commissioners tell me I need to be in another department or I need to go somewhere else? Is the county commission, it's just not your business to help us? 65, 70 residents who, all of us are paying property taxes next week. It's to the assessor. We're all paying property taxes, at least 65 homes. I'm sure there's more.
I see you're stepping up.
Can
Did
you
have-
help?
One of the things that we need to go back to, one of the things that complicates this, it's not a county road.
Right.
It's
but-
not a county road. It's a private road owned by you guys.
Sure, but it's,
And
it's, yeah.
so it's a civil matter between the owners of the road and this gentleman,
So the
right?
county doesn't have any interest in protecting the 65, 70 homes that all of us have to drive by the,
Well, that's not.
We're not saying that at all. We're
Oh.
just saying we're not dealing with a county road. So there's different rules and regs and laws and
okay.
stuff to follow.
Can any of the commissioners help me, give me advice, tell me where to go to get help? I'm a citizen asking, a tax-paying property owner asking.
I think the one gentleman that filed the civil suit that was the avenue.
Yeah, he's already spent money. I've tried to get him to come today. I'm trying.
Can I ask about this? Has this guy lived up there forever? No,
I've
I'm just
only been there
curious.
5 years. I've heard that he inherited the area from his father. From what I know, I don't have a lot of facts about the man, except I've been there 5 years, and the last 3 years, the mess has appeared.
I'm just trying to figure out, has something happened to him that he started doing this? I mean, if he's gone 20 years and not done anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really wish I could answer that.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I've tried to get more neighbors here who, have lived there 30 years, and I've only been there 5 years, so I guess I need more
Yeah.
information too.
Yeah. Gina, you had something?
Sure. I just wanted to offer an update from the Environmental Health Unit.
Oh, thank
I know-
you.
I know you've been in touch with Mary. Yeah, and I think you're probably aware our scope is pretty limited with the solid and liquid waste issues. And so that's our focus.
Okay.
And what we typically do is develop a plan with an individual and ask for certain areas or certain items to be cleaned up by a certain time frame. And so we're working on that with the individual. My understanding is that it includes, removing some vehicles and things like that. And so if we aren't making progress on that plan, then we would move to issuing citation for that. So we're working through that process with the individual.
Okay, well, thanks. That's good to know. I appreciate any update.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess that's all I had to say. I was just trying.
Well,
Maybe I can get
as
more neighbors.
I
Oh, did I get neighbors?
I'd keep it in.
Oh, thank you. So maybe it's great to have more neighbors, and I would love their input.
Sure,
Thanks so
sure.
much. Oh, great, you got more, even more impressive, this is totally horrible.
This is half of it. My printer stopped working this morning. So this is halfway, this is half of this driveway. Literally, I've got more, but my printer stopped working. So I know everything that was said there, but this is my presentation, so.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
I've got video of, them blocking the road. I've got video of them blocking the road at night. I know what she had said. I was hoping to, that's why I was trying to seen what, he has removed vehicles, he'll remove items, and then a week later, they're back. He did remove vehicles for about a week, and then now they're back. And usually what will happen is when he removes something, when it comes back, it's tenfold. And just like with anything, and his father lived there, and his father was a hoarder, you know, he is too. His father lived there. We've been up there since 89. And his father passed away maybe 5 or so years ago. And that's when Devin moved in. And ever since Devin moved in, you know, the hoarding got worse and worse. But it's been, I don't know, I would say about 2 years that it started creeping up onto the road. And now it's directly to the roadside. And on a lot of the pictures that I have, you can see it's right up to the white line. Well, it's a white line now because it's just a country road, but somebody painted a white line so that at the edge, I don't know how that went, but people are putting stuff out there so that we can see what we're going around. And people are putting, he's putting cones out. I've got pictures of reflectors. He puts reflectors on his junk. He puts triangle type reflectors on his stuff. When he parks his vehicles in the middle of the road to unload and load stuff, he puts cones around it and he thinks that makes it good. I've got pictures, I left them back there, pictures of, and video of coming around a corner at night, and there they are in the middle of the road with their rig and people all around it. And that whole road is a curve. So you'll be coming around the corner and boom, their truck is right there. And it's an accident hazard, and you have to slow down and you have to squeeze between them and the edge of the road. And what's really fun about that is you usually get a dirty look because you're going by their truck real slow. So one of their people will usually give you a stern, dirty look. And that's very intimidating for a woman at night on a country road, even though it's your country road, when there's a big man standing there giving you a look as you drive by, you know, 2 feet from your car. It's intimidating. And Devin doesn't do that. It's his cohorts or whoever, you know, usually is around there. And usually that doesn't, Devin himself doesn't do that. It's the people who's with him that give the intimidating looks. And I have pictures of getting those looks. Granted, I use the video on my dash so nobody knows I'm taking videos, but we get looks, we get intimidating looks just for driving past on our road, which we have to do anyways. My daughter, there was a house for sale up there. My daughter and grandkids, you know, I lost 2 sons, and my daughter and grandkids were going to move up there. And she wouldn't move up because of Devin's house, because they couldn't drive past that every day. And that's what prompted me to come up. And it's wrong. And I know you guys, I know what he said, I know what you said to him, but I just had to jump on the chance to come up. I've got video of, you know, so much, but it's to the point of intimidation. It's to the point of where it's scary. And it's dangerous. They're parking in the road at night. And they think it's okay just because they put out cones.
Yeah.
So, and I do want to get message to that lady that they do remove stuff, but when they bring it back, they bring back more. It's like, it's a punishment for doing it. If they take one car away, they bring back 5. It's just the way they do it.
Yeah. Well, nobody here is going to disagree that it's wrong, and I don't know why neighbors do that to neighbors. I've driven by it myself, and I can verify everything that you're showing
Yeah.
in the pictures. We try to keep on top of it. Because it is a private road, we do have some limited things
Yeah,
that we are limited on, but anything the court would ask us to do, I know we would.
Yeah, I
We
know.
would do and try and help that situation.
I know.
I don't understand, it's hard for me to understand neighbors like that, but
Yeah. Well, I know if he was out building a shed, I mean, adding on to his house or something, he'd have to have a permit. And so I don't understand why he can build a, 100-foot, 10-foot high wall up to the roadside and not have to have at least a permit or something. And he's got flammable fluids there. He's got vehicles built into the wall. But
well,
we
the
can't
flammable
add on to
fluids
your
in
house.
vehicles, we have some control over, and I think it sounded like Gina was saying that we're trying to work on that. One of the frustrating things with our side of the thing is things go slow.
Mhm.
And I know it's no excuse, but it just seems to be the reality in courts. If you look back into the time, we had a gentleman that hoarded tires, and you can see how long it took to get that resolved. And that's, I don't know how many years ago that's been, but
35.
yeah, it's just not a quick process, and I don't want to use that as an excuse.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm just trying to be real with you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And I just wanted to bring up what I had. I was doing this, I was preparing to bring this in anyways. And so when I got the letter, I was excited to go ahead and come in. I was going to do the exact same thing he's doing. And I had looked at some of the stuff on the building codes and stuff. And that's why I said about, I know we would need a permit to add a room onto our house. We would need a permit to build a shop, but he can build this horrible, disgusting, unsafe thing without a permit. Where was I gonna go? Sorry. Oh my gosh, that lot. Oh, so, these letters were given to all the, neighbors about today. And I don't know when they were put in, but yesterday, when my husband came home from work, we have, at the beginning of our road, we have about 150 mailboxes altogether, the cluster. And most of them, the doors were ripped off. They were all the paper, all the mail was scattered all over the ground. Somebody had completely vandalized the mailboxes and just destroyed the mailboxes. And the ones who were, really secure, like ours has a metal bar inside it. The lock's not on the outside, it's deep inside it, so they couldn't get ours. But kind of ironic that the day that those letters were there, the whole system got vandalized and trashed, and that's never happened before. I've been up there, since '89, and I've never seen the entire system get vandalized.
Yeah.
And it did. And I can't point fingers, but, it's kind of odd. So
Federal violation.
we have no proof. It's just ironic that your letter gets the entire 100+ mailboxes destroyed.
Yeah.
All the fronts were ripped off, letters, everybody's mail, not just the letter. But they couldn't get ours because it's got a steel bar inside of
Yeah.
it. So,
Ron's right. That is a federal thing, and that's law enforcement. That would be a call. Yeah, you ask if this the best place to be, and I'll just give you just one man's opinion. I think you just keep it in front of us. It's, these meetings are monitored by a lot of different departments and stuff, and I think you just keep this kind of stuff in front of us, and it's a little bit of the squeaky wheel type thing.
mhm.
So that would, just my opinion, that'd be your suggestion. I'd just keep it in front of us.
Okay, I can do that.
And I just like to say, we definitely sympathize with your guys' situation. It's very frustrating. I would be just as upset as you guys are. But to the chairman's point, we can't overstep our jurisdiction because then we would expose the county to liabilities if we're overstepping our bounds.
Yeah.
But continually bringing it here and I would say that the place that this needs to be settled is in the courts. But I will definitely follow up with Gina and with our attorneys and see if there is anything that we can do. In previous conversations, I don't really know that there is, but we'll continue to see if there's anything that this board can do to help. But we also have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're not exposing the county to liability by overstepping our bounds.
Yeah, I understand that. And like I said, and I do understand and appreciate it that like I said, I know that if we went and tried to build onto our house or build a shop or something like that, there'd be rules we have to follow. We'd need a permit. We would need to follow these certain rules. And I just think that he should also have to follow the same rules.
Yeah.
You know, because his building is a lot more dangerous than a spare room or a den that we would want to build.
But
So,
I think, I don't know the rules for a private road, but somewhere, since there's already been a court order, there should be some type of an enforcement mechanism to make that work. I don't know what that is.
yeah.
Yeah,
And like she said, she sees a little bit of progress because he moves a few things, but
I guess the other question in my mind that you mentioned is if he's blocking the road at night
yes,
for a
I've
private.
got video of it.
Okay, if he's doing that at night and making a problem, I don't know if you can call the sheriff. I don't know what the next process is there, but there's got to be some type of rules, whether it's a private road or not. They can't be blocking the road. You'd have to have a legal opinion on what the next step is there.
Yeah, I didn't think of it. I came by one day and it was warm outside, my window down, and I came around the corner and this man stepped out towards me, this big guy stepped out towards me as I'm going by, and it was very scary for me. And so, you know, I'm always trying to be nice. So I said, hey, I said, what's going on? You know, just casually. And he goes, oh, just unloading some stuff. And he's got his arms folded and big guy, and he's looking in my window. And I said it a lot nicer than he did. And then as I went by, I saw this woman sitting on a lawn chair in the road, you know, legs out, drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette in the road at night. And he was like standing by her, which I'm sure his step out was to make sure that I didn't hit her, but she was in the road. And then you get these dirty looks. I've got pictures right here, you know, on here of this dirty look that you get as you're going by. And it's not just a look that where somebody steps out of your way. It's like they look at you and give you a dirty look as they're in the road and they're expecting you to go around them. So I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself.
No, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
The original date that you guys had in court where the judge determined that he had 30 days to do that, who set that court date?
I wasn't part of that.
I was there.
Oh,
Want me to tell?
My question is whoever set that court date needs to follow back up with the court if you haven't yet and say, hey, this hasn't been enforced because I may be out of bounds saying this, but the court obviously isn't doing anything to see if that's been enforced or not. So
Correct.
maybe you need to get back in front of the judge and say, hey, this hasn't happened.
Who's supposed to enforce it?
Response I got from Deputy Gladson when I was trying to talk to the sheriff, and I've got responses from deputies, but I cannot get in touch with the sheriff. And I would really appreciate if one of the commissioners would talk to the sheriff. He might return your call, but the judge, who I can get the judge's name, it was August 27th at 2 p.m. She said, you have 30 days, August 27th. It's on the books. So, the email I got from Deputy Gladson says, it's up to the plaintiff to go back to the judge and say, hey, it hasn't been enforced. But that doesn't make a lot of sense. Mr. Slanger has already paid a lawyer, paid court costs, has gotten a judgment. Why? I don't know, maybe you're not, you can't answer this, but why would Mr. Slanger, who's already paid money to have this addressed in court, a deputy tells me, and I forwarded this to Mr. Slanger, you gotta go back and tell the judge to enforce it. Makes no sense. We're taxpayers. The judge made a ruling. I believe, why won't the county enforce the judgment? It doesn't matter if it's a private road, you're looking at 70+ tax-paying homeowners, property owners that are having to drive past a dangerous mess daily. So a deputy's gonna tell the man who's already spent money that he has to spend more money and go back in front of the court to have the judge enforce her own ruling? I just don't get it.
No, I agree with you. That doesn't make any sense to me either. It really doesn't. But what I would say is, if that isn't working, do what you can to be proactive, to get back in their face, because,
We're here, that's why we're.
yeah.
So I don't know where to go. So I've gone to the sheriff's office 3 times.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the sheriff to respond.
Yeah.
I'm not getting, can you guys have any influence on the sheriff on the behalf of 70 people who own and pay taxes in your county? Please?
Normally, the sheriff is observing. Can't you call him up and ask him to give a commitment?
Thank you, that'd be great.
If he's already sent a deputy up there,
Both of
what's the difference, what do you think the difference is between a deputy sheriff and the sheriff? I'm certain that the sheriff already knows about what's going on and about your concerns. And if he hasn't understood it from you directly, he's definitely heard it from the deputy that was there. So,
Well,
And-
I think what they're getting at, what we're getting at is if a deputy goes out and all the information they have is what's going on that day, and they get this information, they go out and it's just that incident. Excuse me, they're going out saying it's just this incident. But if they're getting other calls from higher up saying this is a major thing that, this is more than just today. This is what's going on. This is a case. Then maybe whoever goes out there will go out there with just with more information. Then this isn't just today.
So I will tell you what I'm gonna do. I will call the sheriff after this meeting. If you'd please leave your information with Kelly, and I will get you information and let you know what the next course of action needs to be.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Just a quick follow-up regarding the representation of these laws and regulations for all of the community. I have developed some ground and I have sold some ground that I couldn't afford to go ahead and do all of the regulations that you have. So I have a private drive, I have a 40-foot wide right-of-way that I have to provide for that. And yet there's no enforcement, just like you're saying. So those of us that try to follow the law and do all of this say to hell with it. We say we can't do it. But the people that bought the property went ahead and did what they wanted anyway. So there is some follow-up regarding the validity of the laws and regulations that we have and the enforcement of that. I appreciate you contacting the sheriff directly and getting a response. He is an elected official and we want to know how he responds.
Okay. Mike, I see you standing. Did you have anything? No? Okay. No, we have 10 o'clock. We have ecology coming in, although I don't see him yet. There he is. How are you? Well, if you've been following along with us, probably the last year, I think about every quarter, Department of Ecology, Bobbitt and Shauna come in and chat with us a little bit and tell us what's going on. And so, this is one of those times, and they're good with interacting with you. So if you have questions, you're available to ask some of those too. One of the things I asked, Bobbitt about, because it was kind of on our radar, was the Forest Practices Board and the ruling on the buffer or whatever you want to call that, doing that. So I thought we might address that a little bit and where that's at. I think a vote comes up in November. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, and I, so I was talking to our staff about that, and they weren't able to join us this morning. But luckily, they provided a bunch of resources that I think I sent you over email with videos of the presentations that cover exactly what they would cover here for all of you, which is the kind of foundation work and understanding of some of the information that's been gathered as part of that effort. So there's not a whole lot more that I can share on that other than the resources, and those are available to everybody. So I think that that's, you know, again, a good opportunity to take advantage of those things. So. It's on there. Yeah, so the vote is on November 12th.
November 12th
Right.
is the vote.
Yeah, by the Forest Practices Board. Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to where that movement originated with regards to the expanding the buffer in non-riparian streams?
Sure. So I'm not our agency's representative on the board. Actually, Rich Dungus was the previous region director in this role. When Rich retired and I transitioned into this, it actually shifted to David Bowen, who's our central region director, and he's now our representative on that. But I know that this has been a number of years in the making. I don't know a lot of the details around all the work that's gone into it, but I believe the board initiated the process through their decision-making to investigate all the different options, and now it's coming up to a point at which there's a decision on moving forward based on all that information that they've collected over the years.
The reason I ask that question is on the Fish Recovery Board and some of the meetings that I've attended with regards to water temperature and how it affects fish. There's a lot of other areas, I would say, that we could work on that would actually make a scientific difference. And a lot of the things that I have read, there really isn't anything that scientifically proves that that would make a difference, expanding the buffer on those creeks. I'll just give you an example. The Toutle River, from the mountain to the SRS, there's absolutely no doubt that water is being warmed up in the summertime. And we're talking about putting fish in and spending all the money to do that kind of thing. Where scientifically we know that water is going to get warmed up and it's not going to be advantageous for those fish. There's examples like that throughout the state. So I'm just wondering, how did we prioritize? How did that get to the top of the list? Particularly when we're talking about taking people's land, private property landowners, commercial landowners, we're taking their land and saying this is no longer usable to you without scientific data that actually proves that that would make a difference. You understand what I'm saying? How did that get shoved up to the top of the list, given the other issues that we're facing with the fish? Because this is all about fish, right? The whole water temperature, that's what we're talking about, is the rivers heating up. So ostensibly, if we're talking about fish, I think that should be the topic of conversation, how it is actually affecting fish in other regions and in other rivers that we've just ignored at this point.
Sure. I mean, I don't have the detailed information to answer your questions on that. I think there's a lot of different ways that we're trying to address temperature in water. And the board is made up of all the representatives. And so I'm not sure exactly at the history of how this issue has been prioritized by the board. But I know that hopefully some of those resources that I provided give you that background and the information that I think answers those questions. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I know we've had people in here that have been interested in this. John, did you have anything you wanted to? Mr. Keatley is a private timber owner out in Castle Rock.
Yeah, thank you. I'm John Keatley, a small woodlands owner in Castle Rock, and family's been in Cowles County for a long time. And again, this issue is got a process that should go through relative to the cooperative management as a collaborative, if you will, to change the rules. This was not followed in this case. And I guess in a perspective is this is a huge taking of private property, not only the timber that people have planted expecting to be able to harvest it 40 and 50 years ago, including on our farm. And then it prohibits the use of the riparian zone for future crops. So it's a huge issue. The number in Cowles County, it's about 7% of the forest land on the private side, small woodlands owners and large industrial owners, which is a huge taking. I'll suggest there's no balance between the property value that's being taken and any benefit. I have not read any predicted quantitative result that this will lead to either more fish, bigger fish, or more species of fish. It's not there. And the vote on the Forest Practice Board, as a lot of us know, was 5 of 13 voted to go forward with the rule package. And hopefully that'll be different this time. There were 13 on the board, 11 were in attendance. 2 of the 11 on the board abstained. Those were both public agencies. The Department of Commerce is an agency, and the Washington Department of Agriculture. You would have thought that Department of Commerce would have been for commerce, trying to balance any environmental benefit from doing this. And the Department of Ag, if this prevails on forest land, I think it's very predictable, because the movement is still there, to try to do the same thing on agricultural land that's been converted away from natural riparian zones. And again, these takings of private forest land today are generally, by far, not natural forest systems. They're in a plantation that's been planted with the best species that we have, which is Douglas fir. So big issue. I think the vote on November 12th is going to be interesting. And forest landowners can't move the land out of the state, although they may try. Thank you.
Do you know if those is forest practice, are those public meetings? Do you know?
They are.
They are. So I imagine, are you planning to be in attendance to that, or?
I do plan to go to that meeting.
Okay.
But 4 public hearings that were held that we have talked about, one in Longview and next one was in Olympia. The public hearings are over. You could still submit comments to the individual board, even though the official public hearing's over. So the decision is expected on November 12th.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Big issue.
So I got a forest practices question, is back in the day, they would log and then they would burn off all the branches and that stuff. And now they don't. And it's like, the processor piles are like 15, 20 feet high, of stumps and such. And that just seems like a lot of dry material to be leaving laying on the ground like that. When did they stop burning it off? And, you know, it seems to me that this is big fires either happening now or in the future.
Yeah. I can answer a little bit of that just because I go through Sierra Pacific to get to my property, and I've seen them do some logging there. They did put them into big piles, and they come in and they lit those piles.
Hmm.
They didn't do what you used to see in slash burn like you used to see in the old days. But they did bring those piles and light those piles, so it was, as I go up, you'd see these piles burning. I do know they do try to get rid of some of that stuff, but it's, you still have more than you used to in the past, Tim.
Yeah, I haven't seen them burning anything, but I guess maybe I just haven't been there at the right time. But I know places where I've been and you visit regularly, and the piles seem to just stay there.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
they
and
got all
you
that
do
branch-
see them around. I'm only speaking for Sierra Pacific because that's
Sure.
the one I know. Yeah.
I can't speak to date, but I can tell you that as I sit on the SWACA board, which is the Southwest Washington Clean Air, one of the main things that they look at as far as particulate in the air is from wood burning. And they say that's the number one contributor to air pollution, which makes it to where it's difficult for people to breathe. So
Yeah, like forest fires.
that's probably one of the main reasons for it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to visit with us. So this board of 12 that's voting on November 12th, one member represents the Department of Ecology, is that correct?
Yes.
How is that member going to vote?
I'm not sure. I haven't been briefed on that. And again, as the agency representative, I'm not that person. And so I have not been prepared with that information.
Well, you sure as heck could get that by calling someone, right?
I think we will hold our decision for the open public comment, or the open public vote.
Okay, so as mentioned previously, we have found no scientific facts that this improves anything. So is your vote based on scientific facts or political or directly from the governor down?
Our agency is taking in the most information that we can to make an informed decision.
You are not really representing our best interests here, just the way you're talking. You're escaping responding to direct questions that affect 7% of our property and our value in the state. And John was right. It starts here and then you walk on over to the east side and to the agricultural side with no real foundation.
It's yeah. I appreciate the questions. I think there are things that need to be addressed. I'm not sure they're in your wheelhouse. I know I've worked with Bobbitt in the past, and when we've had issues, he's tried to reach out to people and try to help those, but I don't know that you have the ability to change minds. I actually, because I sit in on a WASAC, the Washington Association of Counties, and I'm just giving you my opinion it seems to be more driven from Director Sixkiller and a group that he's worked with on, just to be honest with you, I think it's kind of driven from there, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a director's decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, our agency's representative is our central region office director, not me. This is a big issue, complex issue. And so that's why I can't provide more information than what I already provided to the commissioners in advance.
Well, as we, the citizens of the county and of the state, again, our hands are tied because the positions are not elected positions. They are political appointee positions that really we have no bearing upon. We can't impact that. And here you are, you can't even say how your vote is going to be on that occasion so that we can have some more input or writing. The person knows how they're going to vote. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I don't envy your guys' position. I really do appreciate you guys coming and taking arrows, so to speak, on the behalf of your department. And I know it's a difficult situation to be in, but to Ron's point, it would be nice to know that we have representatives within those departments that are at least advocating for the people in the jurisdictions that they represent. So, I understand Ron's sentiment, and I have a tendency to agree 100% with it. And to your guys' credit, where your partner and I are in a lot of meetings together and a lot of board meetings together, and I do appreciate your guys' willingness to come and sit and listen to us. And hopefully it isn't falling on deaf ears, and there's something that you can do, whatever that might be, within the scope of your responsibilities to advocate the message that you're getting from your not constituents, but from the people, the area that you have stewardship over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll take all this information back, have a conversation. I'll be with Director Six Killer for the next 3 days, down at the Centennial Accord. And so, yeah, and I think being here, listening is really important. You may describe it as taking arrows, but I'm not sure how else we get that information.
Yeah.
So you get to experience the same thing as commissioners, and as responsible public servants, that's part of it, is listening, even though we may not have the answers readily available. So.
Yeah. Can we touch a little bit on Mount St. Helens?
Yeah.
Because we had Commissioner Rader, coordinated a workshop, and I don't even remember how long. I'm at the age where time flies. But anyway, I thought it was a very good workshop, and it felt like, and I could be reading this wrong, but it felt like to me anyways, for the first time since I've been commissioner, that we had a group that was starting to look at one picture to go forward with. And I think Senator Wilson put together a letter that a lot of us signed off on and worked on that. And I guess, Sean, I know you've been involved with this a long time too, and I'm just kind of curious what you felt of that.
Of the meeting, the
Yeah.
workshop.
Yeah.
It was great to see so many people attend and just to have the attention of all of you. I think Commissioner Farrell was not there. Is that correct? Wasn't it just two of you
Yeah,
that were there?
correct.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
just,
I was going to say all three, but
watch the video later, but I wasn't
Yep.
there.
And to hear, so we heard from Colin Thorne and got his perspective, and then Dave Vorse, some from Mark Smith as well. It was pretty well balanced, but I think there was a desire to continue the conversation, maybe have another one. I really think that conversation that, focuses on the restoration work that also happens to control sediment upstream of the SRS, right? But also more conversation about the downstream, like the flood risk and that kind of stuff. So I think the more of that we have is the better. But-
Yeah. And it felt like everybody was kind of in agreement, and by the number of people that signed off on the letter, that it's a lot of it is political issue, and it has to deal with back in Washington DC and some of the decisions they make for our area here, or some of the decisions they make in allowing us to do some things for our area here.
Who did the letter go to that Senator Wilson spearheaded? Was it to the Army Corps?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Chief Commander, Army Corps in Seattle.
Is it a public letter that we could?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that yet. Usually it'll get, work the,
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
kind of get through the collaborative members, but I'd be curious to see that in any way that, we can support that or.
That's what I was just gonna ask. To what level are you is the Department of Ecology in our area committed to jumping on board with that?
I haven't seen the letter, so we'd have to take a look at that first, but I know that we've been coordinating meetings with the Corps around the collaborative as a whole, as well as trying to help make connections with you as a county commissioners to help support where the county wants to go. So, you know, I
You
think,
get them a copy of what we signed off on? Yeah, okay.
yeah, that'd be great just to see that. But, you know, we're obviously fully supportive of the efforts in the watershed and trying to figure out these tough issues on the rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one of the major things that we're dealing with, and as I've talked to a couple people in follow up to that meeting, the question that I have for them is, do you know when the next earthquake is gonna hit? Do you know when the next date that Mount St. Helens is gonna erupt? Do you know when we're gonna have the next flood? And the answer to that is no. And so I feel like for 40 years, we have been somewhat complacent. And I think it's time to get urgent with regards to taking action, particularly with the water capacity in the Cowlitz at this point, because of the amount of sediment. If we have a flooding event, it's not going to be good. The river does not have the capacity that it used to hold water. And so we're gonna have some serious issues. And so anything that you guys can do, read the letter to help us create some urgency to get this done. I'm all for having conversations, but I think we need to put some action behind the conversations that are taking place. And anything that the Department of Ecology can do to jump on board with that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so I think so one of the things I wanted to bring up today, given the interest in kind of these conversations, was just revisiting opportunities with the comprehensive flood hazard management plan. You know, we've seen that be a real catalyst in other jurisdictions. And I know you got really close, or the plan is really close from being approved. And I think there might be some final concerns that maybe the commissioners had at that point in time. But I would say that we are very open and would invite a conversation with all of you or some of you around that plan to see if we can get that across the finish line. And one of the benefits of that plan is you know, the way that they've been used in other jurisdictions and other counties is an integrated flood strategy. So these plans are not intended to be regulatory plans in nature at all. They're intended to be that comprehensive strategy around how do we deal with these big issues, in particular around a really complex system with all the sediment that's in there. And that's going all the way up to the mountain, all the way down. And so I do think that, you know, that is a tool that could be really useful. And it sounded like it's really close to crossing the finish line. And so I did want to open that opportunity and say that we're really willing to sit down and, you know, have those discussions and see if we can get that across the finish line. 'Cause I
Yeah.
think it would be a helpful tool too.
Yeah, we had that, and I'll take the heat for that one because that's the one when I started reading, it's a big document.
Yeah.
And it puts stuff in that, in my view, we started talking about climate change and different stuff and not just working on flood hazard. And we had this conversation. And I told you the same thing I told the other people. I'm not gonna sell our people for a plan, but I know Yakima has worked with you and tried to work that through, and I've expressed that same stuff. I would do that. I haven't seen what the changes would be, but as I expressed to you before, if we can make that plan work and we're not putting this huge burden on our people, then I can get behind that. My whole thing is, I'm not gonna put more burden on the people out there. And if we can accomplish the plan and not do that, I don't have any issues with it. And it sounds like you've been able to work that in Yakima, and I'm not opposed to, I don't think any of us are opposed to looking at that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's part of it is opening that back up and taking a look. And we could bring Yakima's one example, but there's a lot of other ones too that we can take a look at and see how it's done. And I know that, you know, again, that opens up additional funding opportunities too from the state. And so I think, you know, if we can find a way to have a path forward on that, you know, certainly I was part of that, though a little bit less associated with it in my previous work. But I think, you know, sitting down and have that conversation to see what it looks like and see what kind of changes might be needed and see if we can find a way forward, I think would be really beneficial. So.
Well, why don't we, I asked building and planning and just coordinating a meeting with us and see if we can't work through some of that stuff. Would that be fair? Okay.
That sounds great. And again, like, we're fully supportive of all the efforts in the county to address these really hard problems on the river. So it's unlike any other place in the state. And
It is. And I've said this many, many times until I became commissioner, I watched the mountain go. I was down in Vancouver and watched it, but then I never thought much about it after that until you got to be commissioner. I started hearing some of the things you're still dealing with. And I describe it, and probably not everybody agrees, but I describe it as three separate problems. I describe it as the Spirit Lake and they're concerned about it holding water in a big event and what it could do. And then the sediment retention, which you work a lot on up in the Toutle. And then the lower part, what are we gonna do with the stuff that makes its way down? Because it causes flooding issues, it's eroding banks and doing all other things. So to me, I always look at it as three separate issues.
I would agree with that, actually. They're obviously related, but I think there are different players at each of those phases and different priorities as well, but definitely all, related. Ultimately, it's trying to reduce what's coming off the mountain still. Mother Nature is sort of healing herself, but there's still so much sediment, right? There's no river practically in the world that has as much sediment as what comes off of down the Toutle. So it's a big problem.
We are unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, coming back to the first meeting that we joined, Commissioner Dahl, you emphasizing that as a priority at your level, I think has really helped. I mean, I would agree hearing, what Shauna has provided back to me on the collaborative's efforts and some of those workshops, and it feels like things are galvanizing. And I think, that's a lot of leadership from the county, and I think that's really shown. So, we're fully supportive of all this effort and really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I watched the video from that workshop that I missed, and since then I've been up with Colin Thorne and Mark Smith, and I took the hike, 2.5 mile hike, whatever it was, to the sediment retention dam, and then I don't know, we took the long way on the North Fork to go up through the sediment plains and stuff up through there. And with a lot of discussion with Colin Thorne and looking at the risk factor, the sediment retention dam is just a temporary solution. It's not going to stop all that crap that's coming down. I think that the biggest problem is public awareness, because we've been complacent for 40 years and we haven't had a problem. I view Mount St. Helens as an open wound. At this point, it just bled a lot of stuff into the Toutle Valley and down to the Cowlitz. And the risk factor that we've got right now, one major earthquake or another eruption or another 96 flood event, that we had two 500-year floods in 4 months apart. I think that the lack of knowledge and education for the bulk of the people, not only here, but in Washington, D.C., most of them are younger than the 45 years ago when the mountain went off. They got no comprehension of what we live with. A tornado, a hurricane coming across the Atlantic Ocean, they get 4, 5, 6 days of warning. They know that it's time to evacuate. They know that there's a problem coming their way. We have 200 people die in Texas from a hurricane and tidal surge, and everybody gets all shook up over it. Absolutely. What kind of risk are we at if we have a failure of that dam at Spirit Lake, or if the mountain goes off again and a major earthquake happens? I didn't, until Colin Thorne explained it to me, I didn't understand that the dams, the sediment retention dams, as the sediment settles in behind those dams, it becomes solid, and it's not a risk of dam failure till you have an earthquake. because as sediment, it sits behind there. They're not made to hold pressure like a dam that holds water. But if it goes to liquefaction, those are gonna fail right on the spot. They're not made to hold pressure if it goes to liquefaction. So if we all of a sudden have a major failure right here in Cowlitz County, coming down from Toutle Lake, Castle Rock, Lexington, Kelso, Longview, you're liable to be sitting in somewhere between 8 and 14 feet of silt that's gonna fill Longview and Kelso. Nobody's gonna pay. FEMA doesn't have enough money to dig that out.
Yeah.
You're gonna have 50,000 people at risk, and I've been labeled the alarmist on this. But I'd much rather get it right the first time than to be, I told you so position. But I think education is our biggest problem, to make people aware of the risks that we're facing, because if we had to evacuate all those people in those lowlands, we're not talking about 200 people. It's gonna be like the fires in California. All the cars are gonna be parked on the highway when people can't get out, and they're gonna be running for their lives.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And I don't see it as alarmist because we've lived through it here in the last couple of years on a small scale called, and it's up off Tower Road, called Rock Creek. It was a creek backed up during the eruption, sit there for 40 years with the spoils, and then the right situation come along and 3/7s popped up on the screen and boom, it was gone just like that. And that's the thing they talk about at Spirit Lake. Only that's a huge, huge scale there.
Yeah, trying to control nature,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And I think, you know, a lot of the work that I did in my previous role before stepping in as a RD was helping the state have positions on natural hazards that helps inform some of the core FEMA programs. I mean, I was involved in helping shape the original BRIC program before it was established and providing input based on the state as our representative. And, you know, I think one of the major things we've been trying to communicate is natural hazards are as impactful here in Washington, even though they look different than the rest of the country. And I think, Commissioner, that's what you're getting at, is, you know, it's not going to look like a hurricane, though our natural hazards may be more catastrophic. They just may not be as frequent. And you look at some of the things like volcanoes, a big earthquake and tsunami event on the coast, and they just look different, as well as riverine flooding just looks different in our state than others. And that's okay, but it doesn't mean that it should be less of a priority in some of those important programs. And so
right.
that work to help to shape some of those things to make sure that Washington also is getting you know, priority within some of those programs, I think has been one of my biggest priorities over my career at Ecology. And I think it's been paying off. Some of the FEMA programs that we've seen have been really good, including the BRIC program.
Yeah.
So, you know, but keeping that as a priority, even times where we're not seeing those disaster events, I think is really challenging. I mean, as commissioners, I'd imagine you get everything coming across your desk from, you know, the wide range of things that I get to, and it's tough to keep that priority. But you know, it's really important that you do that. And so I think that's where all this planning work is really important. And we've seen this leadership, and it does feel like the collaborative is starting to get to some unified direction too, and understanding the issues and trying to figure out what the solutions are. And, you know, we fully support that across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's happening is we're starting to change the focus from ecology and fish, and I'm not saying none of those things are important, but safety is the priority. And that's what we need to start looking at, is that this is a hazard, a safety hazard that could potentially take tens of thousands of lives. And we spend a lot of money on shuttling fish from one part of the river to another and making sure we have wood and you know, and streams. And I'm not saying that's not important, but that should not be the priority. The priority, because if that goes, that's all for nothing. We just wasted a lot of money, time, energy, and resources on programs because we're not taking care of the safety part of it. So I think that's when we see the shift that's taking place with the collaborative and the movement that we're seeing now, it's because we have to shift the priority. The priority is we have a catastrophic risk as Cowlitz County citizens, and when we take that approach, I think we're gonna get a lot more traction than what we have in the past.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think I would also flip that in terms of understanding public safety while designing with nature. And I think that's been some of the lessons we've learned over the last few decades is some of the most permanent solutions you can come up with is reestablishing the natural systems. And yes, there's going to be a time and place where you have to have alterations of nature and be protective, but you also don't want to be spending millions of dollars on infrastructure and have it fail. And so I think those two things, either you look at it as fish and ecosystems and trying to do restoration to protect public safety, or you're doing public safety while using those systems to your benefit. Either way you look at it, I think we've seen significant advancements, and some of the projects in this county are the greatest examples of that too. You got to hear some of those presentations at the last commission meeting, I think, around those things. And I think the field as a whole has really significantly advanced in not only implementing some of those projects, but then learning from them to make sure that we're understanding whether or not they're durable or not too. And I think we've seen the huge successes there around that. And so I think your point is exactly right. And I think we're finally starting to see the intersections of those different fields, including advocating in our emergency management funds and emergency management division here in Washington State, and just helping educate them on understanding how we can use nature to solve some of these really important, challenging issues. And we've seen great successes there too. So I think you're exactly right. I mean, that's the benefits of a multi-benefit approach, is trying to figure out how we integrate these systems and come up with the best solutions for the most cost-effective solutions too, that support public safety.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we have to drive, we're gonna have to have support back in Washington DC, and I'll be, and I'm not trying to be negative here in a bad way, but as a friend pointed out to me one time, I think we need to keep pressure on, we have a senator back there, Murray, that's been there forever, has a lot of power. She needs to help us drive some of this stuff. I mean, I grew up in the area of Scoop Jackson and Magnuson, and they would drive some of this stuff. And so when we deal with our legislatures back there, I'm not afraid of pushing that message, and I don't think any of us need to be afraid of pushing that message. Those are some of the things that we would expect from somebody that has that kind of tenure and that kind of clout back there. So I don't ever want to lose focus on that too, that keep asking and say, step up to the plate and drive some of this stuff for us. We're in your state, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I would say too, the Army Corps of Engineers is an incredible asset. The work that they can do to understand an issue, understand the dynamics all the way to helping identify what the solutions are, that's a huge asset that they bring. I mean, they are the second biggest employer of engineers in the country.
Yeah.
And, we've seen that, how we leverage those resources and follow the right steps and the right procedures to get that all lined up, I think is really important. And that's where, some of that federal support is critical.
And I don't disagree with your assessment of them, but until Congress tells them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Was this letter shared with all of the congressional leaders?
I think that was the purpose of it, yes.
What
yes.
was it's addressed to the Army Corps?
But
It was.
Senator Wilson's office was going to send it out
Okay.
to the others.
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd have to say I agree with the chairman with regards to the Army Corps. They're not proactive with anything. They're reactive to what Congress tells them to do. So from that standpoint, I don't really view them as a resource for us, because if we don't fall within the purview of what they're given direction to do by Congress, we can't really use them for anything, which that part of it is very frustrating, which is why that letter was sent specifically to them.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Getting access to start the process with them, because a lot of their programs are built in pipelines. And I think some of those really important first steps where they do the studies that inform the feasibility, that informs the construction alternatives. I mean, getting into that system is where I think there's huge opportunities for some of the work, including this letter, to understand how Congress can, how our representatives can help inform that decision-making and priority in the, in the legislation to help get resources to Washington to start doing that process, because it takes a long time. And
My understanding was they were already given that mission to both back 40 years ago to both dredge and to maintain the Cowlitz and Toutle River. And what their big hangup is after they dredged it one time was funds. Well, yeah, we got the mission to do it, but we don't have the funds. So if that's all that's holding us up somewhere, I think the focus of, I haven't talked to anybody yet who thinks dredging should be number 2 on the list. Everybody so far agrees that it should be number 1 on the list. Get the dredging done. And it should go from the mouth all the way to the Toutle and probably partway up the Toutle River. And then at that point, you put so much protection in place for Longview, Kelso, and Castle Rock. And then we still would have to worry about what's going to happen. My recollection is when the mountain went off, that I don't remember the creek. What's the outlet of Silver Lake? That the ash backed up to where the dam is right now and almost went into Silver Lake. So if there's already a layer of ash in there, is Silver Lake going to be gone if it goes again? I don't know.
Spirit Lake, you mean?
No, Silver Lake.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that we've seen be really powerful in those spaces when you're trying to help Congress understand the importance of this issue is the more supporting documentation you have, in particular plans. And I think that's another opportunity here for the comprehensive flood hazard management plan is like, if all the plans are saying this is the unified approach that we're wanting to take, we've learned about the issues, we've worked collaboratively, there's consensus around what the alternatives are. All those things are going to be really important when you're looking at federal programs. And so I do think that, again, trying to open that opportunity up to see if we can find a path forward, I think is just another opportunity here to have another tool that we can use to lean back on and provide that rationale. So, and looking at that systems approach and understanding what the most effective solutions might be. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I know we got another thing going, is I don't want to keep you all day, and I know people are here for the other workshop too. I would leave you with 3 asks. If you get a sense of how ecology wants to go on that, on the forest practice board, I think we'd like to have that ahead of time if we can. I mean, if that.
Yeah, I'll ask.
Yeah, I know you'll ask, and if they give you the straight answer, I'd at least, so we can try and address what we can.
Yeah.
Number 2, I'm pretty sure building planning will work up, and we'll try to work on that plan.
Sounds great. Yeah.
And number 3, just appreciate and continue your help working on that whole system.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate the time. We don't consider this to be, a listening session. We consider this to be a workshop with all of you, and we're still committed to it. And I think they've been going really great. And,
No,
it's going to be challenging issues that always emerge, and we may not have answers at the time, but, following up is something Shauna and I have been committed to too. And either if we don't have the answers right now, we certainly follow up with you and provide them to the best of our ability. So I think this has been really great, and just really appreciate the time that you're taking with us to talk about things that are in our nexus.
well, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
always. Good.
We don't mind taking some heat on things. I will say with that, the forest practices thing, ecology's role is, besides a position on the board that's voting on it, there's some water quality analysis that we do on the side that's kind of more internal. That's that anti-degradation analysis. But I would say, and the takings thing, like, I totally understand that's important. And I don't own thousands of acres, but if I did, I can totally understand people being upset. The science of it, when we talk about there's no scientific proof that this would have an impact, it's tough to do that. Like, we have evidence that we know that temperature is important to salmonids, right? The colder the water, the better. The idea behind this, I know, because it's non-fish bearing streams, is that if you keep the water, that's basically the source, right, for a lot of fish bearing streams. So if you can keep that cooler, you're going to benefit fish down the downstream, right? And that's a lot of the logic behind it. Like, there are people working hard on it who have, there's scientific reasoning behind it. There's evidence. We know that, like, stronger riparian areas do keep temperatures cooler. But there's also that, that political and sort of commercial side of it that is difficult. So I just wanted to add that because I felt like we didn't really address that there is scientific evidence for doing this. But you have to kind of weigh, the cons and benefits. So.
Well, the only thing I would add to that, Shauna, is there is evidence to say, like, for example, the more ice you put in water, obviously the colder it's going to get. But when I'm talking about scientific proof, I'm talking about the fact that proof that the water temperature is actually going to change enough to make a difference for the fish.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And I don't feel that we can take land and put taxpayers on the hook for millions of dollars on the thought behind what we want to do.
Right,
That
right.
to me is not okay. And
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's
I hear
nothing
what
been
you're saying.
scientifically proven that it's actually going to lower the water temperature further downstream.
Mhm.
That I have not read anywhere. The science behind it is theoretically, yes, this should work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about that it's going to benefit the fish, then I would say I want some empirical proof showing, yes, this will work. How do you do that without actually implementing it? You're right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not for doing that type of stuff, taking land, costing money and what that would do, just to find out
Right.
on a whim.
And it's kind of like with the Fish Recovery Board, how they have the intensively monitored watersheds. They do restoration work and then they measure afterwards, did this have a benefit? That's really probably all they can do with the temperature thing too. But the point is well taken, and it's.
And the only thing I would add to Chairman Dahl's request is just advocate to the person sitting on that board where Cowlitz County sits with regards to that situation.
Yeah, I've talked to David about that. We have a check-in every Friday between the region directors. And yeah, I think, and he expressed that, this is just a super complicated issue and he understood and heard. So yeah, I mean, I think I was waiting to get a little more information based on this conversation to help inform, because Commissioner Dahl and I just briefly touched on it just in terms of the importance of talking about it today and just understanding a little bit better. But I'll certainly circle back with him and communicate this for sure. Yeah. And to our staff.
Mike? Must have spurred a comment here.
Well, when she brought up the thing about the fish forestry thing again, there was something, I think the whole room needs to hear this. Don't know if it's true because it's just like whether it's in the Daily News or in the Google machine yesterday, I seen something about the Klamath River. 109 years, since 1909 was the last time they had a Chinook salmon in Chiloquin. The tribal leader said they had some last week. Those dams have been there over 100 years, and we always hear talk about native fish, hatchery fish, whatever. Fish go back to where they came from. This fish is 300 miles upstream, and it could probably only get 50 or 60 of it before, but here it is 100 and some odd years later, and the fish has made its way back. Sometimes man's best intention, or I should say mankind, that way we can loop women in on this also. We think we know better than Mother Nature, but I don't really think that's the case. If given an opportunity, these things pretty much take care of themselves. We can help a little bit of a helping hand every now and then, but I thought it was very interesting. Since 1909 is what this tribal elder said, since a salmon had been there. And it's back in 1 year since they took the dams out. Hundreds of miles. Fish hadn't been there, but it managed to find its way back. I just thought everybody would, I don't know if I can bring it back up on my phone, so that's why I better bring it up so everybody can start thinking about it. And maybe it'll show up in the paper in a few days. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Yeah. Anything else? John, did you have anything else? You're all good? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
For
you
your
again.
time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much.
I hope how's your shoulder doing, Commissioner?
Pardon me?
How's your shoulder?
No, we're giving him nicknames.
Yeah. I don't know. He was telling me that he's now learned to
Good
cast lefty, and I was like, man, that is impressive.
Little broken wing.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you again. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Gina.
Okay. Gina James, Health and Human Services. So we have today just to review the draft of our local 5-year plan. Does anybody need a hard copy? Would you like a hard copy? Okay.
Got it available,
I do have,
please?
Are you gonna be going, it's gonna be on the slideshow? Okay.
Thank you.
I do have a couple extra copies. I also have a QR code if you want to view it just electronically as well. Okay, and it is available on our website as well. Okay. So the purpose for today is just an initial review and discussion. Not looking for any decisions or anything today. Just an opportunity for questions, input, et cetera. This draft has been developed with input from our homeless housing task force. So we have about 13 members on that task force. They've spent quite a bit of time inviting some guest speakers in, hearing from local service providers and different folks involved in housing and homeless services that have helped to guide some of the discussion and what has been put into the plan. We have to submit the plan to the Department of Commerce in December. And so we're sort of hoping to put final touches on the plan. We will do a formal public hearing in November, so there'll be another opportunity there for public input. As I mentioned, we have it posted on our website currently. There's also an opportunity at that same location for anyone from the community to give input on the plan. So it's a quick kind of a virtual forum that folks can just give input if they'd like. Also welcome to just contact me directly if they want to give some input or share here or at our public hearing. So we have a couple different opportunities in that sense for anyone in the community to give us some feedback and input to this. The purpose of the plan, it's a requirement for administering our local document recording fees. And so when the Board of County Commissioners is looking at making any funding decisions with our local document recording fees, it has to be something that is connected to this plan. So that's the way it is used and the purpose for having this plan. It historically has been a little bit of a broad plan in that sense because we've not wanted to sort of pigeonhole ourselves into one or two specific things that we could potentially do with document recording fees, but instead give some flexibility to be able to go different ways. And so you'll notice that again. We could certainly change that if the board would like, but that's kind of how we have historically approached it. And we did that again in this plan. Let's see. And then, so just want to mention that you'll notice in the plan that we are required in statute to include certain pieces as outlined by the Department of Commerce. And so they gave counties some guidance that we were required to follow. They required certain components for us to include in the plan. And so there are some required pieces that we have to include. So I'll touch on what those specific pieces are as we kind of go through a little bit. I'm not going to read the plan verbatim, just so you know. I'm going to do kind of a broad, yeah. I don't want to keep you here till 5. I'm going to do just a broad overview of what the plan includes, and then we'll stop and we can certainly then get, into more specifics, depending on where the area of interest is. Okay, so the plan itself, we have just a brief introduction, an acknowledgement that, the Homeless Housing Task Force has been working really closely with us on this plan. We have just a broad overview of some housing and homeless interventions that you typically see happening in the community, as well as some of our local housing resources in the community. I don't claim that it's an all-inclusive list, and these aren't programs that the county funds. These are just resources that exist in the community. I mentioned the plan. We have a little blurb in here under the local plan section that just talks about our requirement to include pieces from the Department of Commerce. Within the goals themselves, we identify those required pieces with an asterisk. So you'll see when you see an asterisk next to certain parts, that's because that's one of the pieces required by the Department of Commerce. And then I also, I don't think I said this before, the plan doesn't sort of commit the county to funding everything that's in here. It is more of a guide, or some people call it like a menu of options or ideas. So we're not committed to funding everything in this plan. But if we are looking to fund something, it has to be on this plan. Okay. And then there is a list of what is listed in statute as the eligible activities under the plan. It calls out some really specific things, but then at the end of it, it says other activities to reduce and prevent homelessness as identified in the plan. So it outlines some specific things, but then sort of has this catch-all in there of anything else you identify that might help. So, okay, so we have, the plan includes sort of 3 different goals. The first goal, increase training, education, and job skills opportunities. So the task force had quite a bit of discussion on the importance of education, job skills, training for individuals as a way to both potentially prevent homelessness and help individuals gain some better knowledge and education for maybe getting themselves out of homelessness. So there's quite a bit of discussion there. So we have that as a specific goal, and then a couple of different objectives listed underneath there. The second goal, support a homeless system focused on self-sufficiency. So there was also quite a bit of discussion about ensuring that if there are interventions the county funds, that those interventions would have a focus on self-sufficiency. So that an individual, if they needed a little bit of help, they may be able to access that help, but then they would be kind of set to be self-sufficient after that. So that was a lot of the discussion the task force had as well. And then number 3, increase access to affordable housing. And so there was quite a bit of discussion on this as well, just recognizing that we could use more units and units that are affordable to both build, but also affordable to individuals to rent. And so there was some discussion on that about continuing to have a focus on increasing affordable housing in the community. Okay, there's a paragraph here underneath goal 3 that says it's a prioritization criteria for homeless housing capital projects. It's on page 5. This was one piece that we were required by the Department of Commerce to include. It's basically a statement that says if we're looking at capital projects, they would align with local plans, other plans like your comprehensive plan or other plans that have to do with building housing in the community. And so Commerce is asking us to just include a statement about that to say like, yeah, if we look at capital projects, we're going to look at projects that align with our other local planning documents, whatever those may be. And so I just want to point that out. It was kind of an odd inclusion. So, okay, so those are the goals. what's in the rest of the plan, there's some different appendices included. There is one that looks at just an overview of capacity in our community. And so it's really a list of housing projects in our community. Again, it is not a list of what the county funds. It is just a list of what is available in our community in terms of actual housing projects. So you see everything included in there, from emergency shelters to transitional housing to HUD voucher programs to permanent housing. So there's just kind of a whole list of what that looks like in our community. Appendix B is just an overview of our point in time count. It just shows the trend over time and some information about what the point in time count is. Appendix C is to document stakeholder and public engagement. This one's not quite complete because we're not done yet with our public engagement process. And so we'll change this as we continue to move through different pieces of our public engagement and what that looks like. That is one of the required pieces from Commerce, is to include an outline of what our public engagement process was. Okay, Appendix D is an update from our previous 5-year plan. So it just highlights the different things that we did that were on that plan. There was a lot of allocation and investment in affordable housing and different things. And so we just kind of outlined there what that looked like as kind of a wrap up to our last 5-year plan. Okay, and then the last few appendices are all required to include from the Department of Commerce. This one was a plug and play tool that Commerce developed, and we had to include the snapshots of that in our plan. I don't fully understand everything that it went into the tool that was developed by Commerce, and so I apologize in advance. But it's available on their website if anyone wants to take a look at it and do the plug and play themselves. But essentially, they set up this tool and we sort and filter for Cowlitz County, and it looks at our population and that kind of thing, and it produces information based on that. And so there's certain projects. I know we've talked about the homeless management system before. Certain projects enter data into that system in our community if they're funded by the state or HUD. And so this is pulling information from that report. It's not necessarily information about all of our projects in our community. It's just from the projects that might enter into that database. And then Appendix F was also required to include from Commerce. It's just an overview of what funding the county has available that might be able to be used to address housing and homelessness. And so they asked us to include which funding we're involved in and what that has looked like. So it asked us to show what came in from the last fiscal year and what we anticipate for this fiscal year. So just a brief outline of that. And then Appendix G was a similar kind of plug and play that Commerce provided as a required component. Again, it was a tool that they developed where we put our information in and it spits out these numbers. It's suggesting housing and emergency shelter numbers that we need in the next several years. So I'm not well versed on exactly the information that went into the tool that they developed, but we have it included in our plan.
Gina, on Appendix E with these bar graphs,
Mhm.
We input our information into this tool and this is what it spit out, correct? So if we look at this, as far as the expenditures and the enrollments, the overall expenditures went up from 2023 to 2024. The enrollments went up from 2023 to 2024. The expenditures on our housing interventions, for the most part, I would say probably stayed pretty even on that one. But the beds and interventions only went up, and our annual expenditures went up by just under $3 million. What can we deduct? What are we supposed to take away from these bar graphs?
Yeah, so it is challenging. And as I mentioned, I don't have a great understanding of everything that went into them developing this tool. What I will say is, knowing that it pulls from the database, if there's a new project that gets awarded. So let's say the Department of Commerce, issues a grant and somebody in the community gets awarded that grant. They're required to enter in HMIS. So we now have a new expenditure from the year before that would be included in this. We also have new enrollments that would be included in this. And so it is hard to know how to take this information and use it in a useful way based on, knowing that some of the increases here could be a result of just a new project that happened to get awarded in our community. They're then required to use HMIS, and therefore it gets captured in this report when it maybe wasn't the year before. So that being said, I'll try to take a look again at some of the information that goes into this report so I have a better understanding of what all is included.
And the reason I ask is, as I sit in on this board's meetings, the conversations were really, really good. And they really tried to improve this plan and to make sense of the information that was given to us. These bar graphs, if you look at them, I would say that they're pretty consistent with the point in time count as far as the increases that we see here. And so it really does beg the question, is the approach that we're taking, is it actually helping? And the reason I say that is based on our own information and our own numbers, so not from the state. If you look at the enrollments by project, that went up. Homelessness prevention accounts went up. The services went up. Other projects went up. The money by expenditure went up. So everything has gone up. And so I really do, I appreciate the effort and the energy that went into creating this plan with that in mind, because I remember we were in there for conversations asking ourselves, is what we're doing working? And so, looking at those bar graphs and stuff with the tool that they created, I think it's going to give us the information that we need to make decisions moving forward to ensure that this money is being spent in a manner that is actually making a difference.
Yeah, and it is, one of the caveats to all of this is it's these, and then the bar graphs represent investments that have been made in our community, not necessarily the investments that we as the county have made. So there is a little bit of separation there, and in that sense that, we can look at our investments and what's happened. The state also invests and the federal government also invests locally as well.
But I think it speaks to our overall approach.
Sure.
Within our county and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm lost. How would that tell me that we're improving homeless?
It doesn't tell us.
Well, just to go along with what you guys are saying, there's a bar missing here is how many people are getting helped by this money, right? I mean, this is a great breakdown of the or what we've got and spend, but there's no column here for how many people are getting help. Because if you go over here to the point in time count, sad as it is, I mean, 300, 400 people at the high point here of some kind of, that's the total, right? Well, for the millions that it looks like goes into this, why would there, why? I mean, how many people are actually helped by this? That doesn't tell you that here.
Yeah, the enrollments, the bar graph that talks about enrollments, that's, yeah.
Is there, do you think there's any way when I'm reading through this,
Is your microphone on?
sorry. When I reading through this, I see a lot of things number one, I see a lot of asterisks, so Department of Commerce pretty much wrote the program.
Yeah.
Metrics for success, is there any wiggle room to develop some metrics that tell us we're succeeding? I mean.
Yeah, so we
is
can't.
that fair to ask the community to say, hey, can we come up with some metrics that make sense that shows that when we're doing this, we're actually making a dent?
Yeah, so and then we have had some conversation about that in the group, and we could certainly do that in this plan if we'd like. Some of what we had talked about was, if we have contracts for a specific thing, then some more specific metrics would be identified in a contract for services.
And I'd be okay with that. I just
Yeah.
think maybe worded in there, when we do these contracts, we would suggest that there's metrics to show that the contracts are doing what they say.
Yeah, okay.
I would just like to see.
We did talk about that.
Did
Mr.
you?
Chair, and
Yeah.
one of the things that I remember the conversation took place is if you look at the service providers that are in here, we don't fund a lot of those. And so we would have to be asking them to keep those same records with contracts that we didn't give to them. And they could just say, I'm not gonna do it, because we don't have a contract
Well-
with them, and that would skew our numbers.
Yeah, and that's certainly a choice of those, but then if they ever do come and they need something from us,
Yeah.
I would remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, did you have a question?
Right. Well, following up on metrics and metrics for efficiency and success. That's where I was looking at the same bar charts here. So you have expenditures in terms and you have beds. So if the metrics or if everything is right, then if you take and divide the cost by the beds, you would know what efficiency you were getting in the cost per bed, if that is the metric that you're going to use. And as was said before, one is beds, the other is people. So again, some way or another, some metrics need to be incorporated to check for success. Similarly, when new agencies or other agencies come in, you could ask, okay, what is your metric for how many people you're going to serve or how many beds you're going to serve? Because I can look at this and say that it looks like bed efficiency was significantly different in the various categories. So metrics, you don't even know where in the hell you're at if you don't have some metrics to compare against. And you don't know where you're going to go if you don't have metrics to help you improve. So just a quick comment.
Yeah, and Ron, this information that we have, I don't want to say that it's skewed because that's not the right word, but it is a little bit, what I would say, jaded, just due to the fact that we don't control the information that we get, that we receive, that we put into this tool. And so because of that, you could really look at this and ask how accurate are these numbers based on the overall performance of everybody within our county? And I don't know how we would get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
How often do these numbers get collected?
Once a year, I believe, Commerce collects this type of information for the projects once a year.
So the best metric we would have based on that would be how many beds were empty last year, and how many are empty this year. If we got more empty beds, we got less homeless. I don't know.
Advertise it, bring in more people for fill.
Yeah, that's about what would happen too.
Behave yourself, Ron.
Yeah, just kind of jumping on the same thread here. I think I read that it's been, the homeless task force has been around since 2005. Is that right? And there's been all the different, so the numbers have just gone up since then. So kind of along the same vein, what is unique in this plan? Because obviously what's been happening for the last 20 years hasn't improved the situation. Is there something unique here that's different? I looked back just super briefly at the last one and didn't really see any differences, but is there a difference in this plan versus what has been done in the past that you know?
So, I mean, it's hard because we're one piece of this huge puzzle. And,
Right.
and again, the purpose of the plan and the purpose of the task force is to give input on developing this plan. The purpose of the plan is to help guide funding decisions for document recording fees. I don't claim that it's a plan to end homelessness at all, because we know that, you know, this issue exists and will continue to exist.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in terms of something different, I guess what I would just say is there's, you know, this particular task force had a focus on more education and training and work skills, and also focus on self-sufficiency, making sure that that's an important factor in any projects that are funded. So those are what kind of jumped out to me as differences. And it is challenging because.
For sure, and I
Yeah.
get. Did you guys at all look at other communities that maybe have had success in decreasing the homeless number or don't have kind of the same issues that we seem to have? I mean, I get Washington State is just very homeless friendly, and I understand that you guys are stuck under that, but just,
Yeah.
I mean, are there other communities that are succeeding or don't have the issues, and can we model anything after those?
Yeah, so we briefly looked at what some other counties, their other county plans included, for example. But it is hard for some of the same reasons we've talked about with the information here and some of the conversation we've had about the point in time count too, is like, how do we really know that, you know, how do we identify based on that information that
Yeah.
folks are, you know, making a difference in their
Yeah.
own communities? So
Yeah.
it's hard.
It's not great data. I know, I get that. You know,
Yeah.
the other question I had was in the introduction, it says the Homeless Housing Assistance Act requires counties who administer local doc recording fees. Is there an option to not administer them? Like, what would happen if Cowles County said, we're not going to administer them? Does it go back to the state and the state just kind of goes around your back and decides, kind of like they do with the other things? Like what? I'm just curious. Or are they really saying counties who administer them, all counties are going to administer them? I'm just curious, like, is there an option to not?
I think what would happen is, so the way it works right now, there's document recording fees. A portion of those fees that are collected go to the state and a portion stays at the county.
Right.
I think what would happen if the county said, we don't want to administer these, is they may just all go to the state.
Okay, and then is it
to
one of those situations
administer.
the state then kind of comes around and decides to administer?
That
and
may-
this was
yeah.
our way of having local input?
Yeah, I may be wrong on that,
Okay,
but just.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to look more at that statute to see if it kind of talks about that. But,
Yeah.
that may be a scenario.
Yeah.
If we
yeah,
chose not
I
to,
was-
yeah.
I was just curious. Yeah, it really just does feel like the more money we pour into it, the more we attract people. So there's that balance there. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for your
thank you.
answers.
Well, I can tell you, Lorna, I can't think of a situation where I would rather have Olympia making decisions for our citizens. I can't think of a situation where I would rather have Olympia. making
100%.
decisions for our
Yeah, I
citizens.
agree. So if it's one of those situations where the state is just going to come around, kind of around our backs and do it anyway, I would 100% prefer to do it here. If it's not, and the money just goes to the state and then we they're not going to do that, is that something to consider? I don't know. We'd have to look at, I mean, you have to look at the pros and cons of it, but I sense they'll probably go around the back. Yeah.
It's always good to us to have what control we can have.
Hun-
By the number of asterisks you see, the state wants to control a
I
lot.
totally get that. I totally get that. Yeah. And like I said, if that is the case, then I would much rather have it come through here than come from the state. But I was just curious what would happen if you chose not to administer it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, the state likes to write the rules and make them unfunded mandates and dump it on somebody else.
Yeah. Easy way to do
And
it.
I would say also, I want to give kudos to the task force, because as I sit and listen to those meetings, they really do hash out these difficult situations, and they're hard decisions to make, and they really want to do what's best for the county in helping these citizens in these unfortunate circumstances. And there's been some pretty emotional conversations in some of those meetings. And so it is, they're doing the best that they can with what they're given, and any way that we can improve it, I think, is why we're here.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Steve Madsen. My address is 11610 Lewis River Road, Ariel, Washington. I'm the Vice Chair of the Homeless and Housing Task Force. I'm also the Legal Director for what used to be Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Legal Aid, is now Timberland Legal Aid. I've been on the task force, I think, for a little over a year. Seems like it anyway.
Longer than that.
It really has been an interesting experience. I have worked in housing issues most of my career. Was the Building Industry Association Government Affairs Director, Building Industry Association of Clark County Government Affairs Director, and then I was General Counsel for Aho Construction, a large residential home builder in the region. I've lived in Cowlitz County since 1969. So I'm generally familiar with the area and its people, customs. I want to speak directly to the plan itself, and I guess the closest analogy I would draw it to would be the county's comprehensive plan. And you can have a comprehensive plan without you can't have an effective comprehensive plan without an implementation strategy, which is your zoning ordinance. And somewhere the downfall to this process is the facilities and funding are there to create the plan, but there's no real, and it's through your implementation strategy is where you would come up with the metrics and how to improve the situation. I can tell you that without sounding flip, the concept of homelessness here in Cowlitz County, and I see probably in the last 3 years at Legal Aid, I've seen dozens, if not hundreds, of folks either facing homelessness or in homelessness. And to me, it's like somebody walking around with a bad cough. The reasons for that cough may be myriad. It might be cancer, it might be bronchitis, COPD. You don't know, right? And we tend to talk about homelessness the same way, like it's somebody with a bad cough. And so what I would encourage us to do going forward, I mean, the plan is the plan. We've got, our kind of hands are tied in terms of what goes into the plan and how much effort you want to put into stuff that's not required in a state required plan. But I think if you really want to make headway and use the plan as a basis, you would look at the Appendix A in the plan, because that really tells you what's happening in the community. And it doesn't lump people together as homelessness or couch surfing. There's various levels of homelessness according to federal regulations and stuff. So, but I think if you actually look at and we study what our individual service providers are doing for the community and in the community, you'll see that the numbers are actually huge. I think if you look at the bottom totals on the Appendix A sheet, you're looking at services provided to people on the order of 1,600 people in 2024, and for a county of 110,000, that's a lot of people. And so I think that's if we're going to make use of this process and make use of the plan itself, that we should be developing strategies that support those folks that are, and one of the places that maybe is lacking in there that we discussed at one of our meetings with Commissioner Rader is that the faith community isn't really represented in those figures very well. And so there's probably even, those numbers are probably even further overstated by the number of folks that are going through the system. And the problem is that, yes, some of those folks are probably frequent flyers in the system. But again, if you're a cancer patient, your cough needs a lot more than if you got a throat infection, right? And so there are always going to be those people within the community and within the homeless population that are going to need supports more or less permanently in some fashion or another. And we in my mind, we've got to have some empathy for that situation. The last thing I'll say is that this has been a very challenging time for housing, in large part because and I'll be the first one to criticize the way that rental support was provided under COVID. I think it was necessary, and I still think it's necessary. The problem is when they provided rental support during COVID, there was no restriction on how many times you could receive it. I mean, it was frustrating for me as a nonprofit service provider to come in and say, you know, yeah, I'll try to keep you stay in your apartment. I'll help you. Well, I've already been to CAP 3 times for, you know, rental assistance. Can you help me again? And it's like, well, my job is to help keep you housed. So yes, I can try to help you again. But clearly the funding could have been better designed and more effective. That mean I think we should not have it? Absolutely not. I think it's a vital part of our social safety net. Others will disagree. But anyway, I want folks to understand that the last couple of years have been very tumultuous in the way we provide housing and services to people either homeless or facing homelessness because of the ups and downs of the funding cycles and all of that. So appreciate the consideration for the plan, and it's been a great experience to serve the county on this commission. Thank you. If there's any questions.
Go ahead, Tim.
Real quickly, I just wanted to say that I got the number that I was kind of looking for. I should have read it more before I spoke. So 769 people helped. That's what it says here, right? Total enrollments. Well, anyway, the 9,155,000, to do the simple division there on my calculator, it says that's only 11,905 each. You know, helping somebody stay in a home and stuff. I don't know. Doesn't sound that bad, really. I mean, I always give Gina a hard time, but you know, I don't know. It's a pretty good report, really. Doesn't seem like that when you get it down to 11,000 each. Say, I thought maybe they're all living in mansions or something, but that would be a mansion.
One part of your plan that in my personal opinion, is a good part is the education part. When you see reports of the number of people, you know, in the system, in our incarceration and stuff that are what they call functionally illiterate, you can't read at a level, write, those type of things. I think there is a correlation between having those skills and being able to support yourself. So I would say that I commend you for taking a look at that and putting that as a priority to help these people understand their skills or develop those skills and become self-sufficient. The other thing I ask is I don't understand. I would be curious let me just take one of them here, and this is a Department of Commerce thing. Promote an equitable, accountable, and transparent homeless crisis response system. That sounds good, but what the hell does it mean? I mean, you can have all kinds of interpretations behind that. I'd be curious of what the backstory is that got them to that statement. You know what you kind of understand what I'm saying? They made that statement. They must have an idea of how they want it to play out. And I don't see, and I'm not seeing that. Cause I can interpret that different than somebody else, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was part of their approach in saying, okay, counties, you're required to include these certain objectives, but how you want to address this is up to local communities.
Now, if they're clear about that and saying that we have the leeway to interpret that and make that happen, then I'm more comfortable with it than them having an idea of what that means and saying, no, you got to do it this way.
Yeah, yeah, so the message we've gotten thus far is you're required to include this objective. How you want to address that objective is for your local community to decide. And so, and on that.
Have you guys had any discussion on what you think that should mean?
Well, so what we have included right now as the, the strategies.
The strategies and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what we identified was coordination among service providers through monthly meetings, which we do as a way to increase communication, coordination, potentially accountability in that sense. Contract monitoring, so that's the addressing, accountability and transparency in that sense. Coordinated entry report, we do a report each year about coordinated entry data, and then point in time reports. And so that's what we have included right now as strategies for addressing that objective. We could certainly look at other pieces. We too had some of that same conversation about how to, they require certain objectives, but then leave it up to communities to decide how they want to address that, which does leave, some room for interpretation in that sense. They do in this.
Have to approve this too?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do have, the state has recently completed their own plan, and they have this objective in their plan as well. They address it differently in their plan, some different pieces. That is, if you're interested in learning more about kind of what they're looking at, the state plan would give some of that insight to how they're addressing it in their plan.
I'm just trying to ensure as best that we can that our local people working on this put our local input into it. I mean, my colleagues have spoke about that quite a bit, that needs to be local decisions being made here.
Yeah, and that's where the state required certain objectives, and you see that identified in the abstract. What is in the strategy is what we have locally come up with in terms of how we would address that.
One of the things that was discussed at length, I would say, is to, as Gina already stated, to try and paint this with as broad a brush as we could to give us as much leeway as possible with any implementation of any of this stuff so that we weren't pigeonholed into having to do it this specific way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's obviously it's a lot of work on your guys' part. I would, and I think you made some notes, if something about we want accountability standards or we want some metrics, even if we don't identify them in there per project, I think would work fine.
Yeah, and I'm happy to include something in here about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, the purpose for today was to do an initial introduction, have some conversation. I certainly would love to hear additional feedback from you if you have suggestions for what to include or edit or take out or what have you about what's in here now. And as I mentioned, we have on our website, and we'll keep it up until the plan is finalized, opportunity for folks in the community to give feedback, or you're certainly welcome to contact me directly if you want to give input or ideas, suggestions. we'll get the public hearing scheduled, so we'll have another opportunity for input and discussion then as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your work. Thank all of you for your work. Anything else, gentlemen? Call this a day? Okay. We will adjourn. Thank you.